I drove a friend of mine a couple of days this week over for a follow-up appointment. She had some laser surgery on her eye to repair some damage recently, and had a couple of follow-up appointments. And of course, you can't do much driving when you can't see. So I took her along, and rather than go in and sit in the clinic for however long she would be, I took my iPad and just stayed in the car and checked my news and listened to my tunes and, did that kind of thing. Today was one of those days. Her appointment was at 11:35, and we got there, and she went in and texted me from inside saying they're running a little behind time, so I could be a little longer than normal. And well, that was fine. I had my iPad; it was fully charged. I was going through CBC News World, one of the apps I have, and I'm, for those of you that have seen me before, you know that I'm kind of a news junkie. And I came across a story that was posted yesterday, and it's something that made me think of something from my past, because it was something that I had approached the Cowichan Valley Emergency Preparedness Committee on many years ago, probably 12, 13 years ago. And that was a database of those in the community that were most vulnerable. I was on Vancouver Island when I did this, which has a lot of small little remote areas, and some of the smaller islands are quite often subject to power outages that can last for some time. I already knew a couple of people in that area that were on that used breathing apparatuses at night because they were high-level quads, or used oxygen. I knew of a couple of others in remote areas that were on home dialysis. And all of these things require power. The respirator, nighttime respirators, for the people I was aware of, had 4-hour backup batteries, but that was the extent of it. So, in the event of a power outage, and they all lived independently with caregivers coming into their home and so forth. So, they had support that way, but the bulk of the time they took care of themselves. They all had jobs. So I was reading this story, and it was about the first vulnerable persons registry, which is being launched in Sault Ste. Marie, and it was inspired by the death of a disabled 21-year-old man. His name was Lewis Wheelan. I never really heard this story before, but because it goes back quite a ways. But this was a man that had lost both his legs, his right arm, suffered severe burns over half of his body in a workplace accident in 2001. Part of the problem that happened was he was left without the ability to control his body temperature. That, by the way, isn't an uncommon characteristic with a lot of different types of disabilities, including high-level quads, who don't have the ability to sweat. So he was in his apartment during that big blackout in 2003 in Toronto, and his air conditioning went off, and he died as a result of it. Nobody was aware that this was an issue. Of course, he had family, but they were spread around the province, and if anybody remembers that blackout from back then, telephones weren't working either. There was a lot of electronic equipment that failed during that particular time. So that brought me back to looking at emergency preparedness again, and, I still can't find anything like this being done. When I took it to the Cowichan Valley Emergency Preparedness Committee, and that has to be, 1998, 1999, they kind of wanted to stay away from that because they saw that as infringing on provincial jurisdiction. Most emergency preparedness is municipal jurisdiction and planning. Well, this was it was a hot potato being thrown all over the place, and nobody really wanted to catch it. with the growing amount of home care that's going on now, and the high level of technology that's out there to assist people at homes, there's never been a better time than right now for a voluntary vulnerable persons registry. I know lots of people. I mean, I've been on disabled since I was 3 years old, so I know a lot of disabled people that are quite independent and interdependent, and that they do need some assistance at certain times of the day, but also are quite dependent on technology, particularly sleeping technology, because a lot of quads I know, once they lay down, can't breathe on their own, so they require a bird, what's called a bird or a respirator at night. Some are on oxygen. How are we tracking these people? Where I live, I'm on the 16th floor of a high-rise. In the event of a fire, I'm supposed to stay in my apartment, and the fire department will come here. Well, I've been here 4 years. There's probably been a dozen instances of the fire alarm going off, and I've yet to have anybody knock on my door. I mean, it's never been an issue to this point, but I really kind of wonder what's happening in this area and why don't these things exist. One of the things I know is that there's a huge liability issue that nobody really wants to deal with if they make a mistake. Well, I don't think we need to wait. This is like waiting until the cows have left the barn before you close the barn door. The technology's there. If people want to go on to a registry, that should be their option. Knowing where vulnerable people are in the event of an emergency, particularly when you're out in the boonies, is very important. When there's a power outage, those that are depending on that power like to know that somebody may be there to help them. And I'll tell you, the other thing is, I think most fire departments would really like to realize that there's a huge tank of portable oxygen in the suite next to the one that's on fire. Anyway, that's just my little spiel. Food for thought, because I'm going to pursue it. All right, have a good day. Talk to you later.